Graham and I are going to tackle a topic that is very important to me. We've hit some specific topics this afternoon and this morning. This one's going to be something a little bit for everybody here, and in some ways it's a little bit of a challenge. People that I met when I first got here heard me talking about the importance of regionalism. And that's a word that's kind of vague, and what does it mean? What are the legs on that? How do you know you have it? I want to just start off by just saying that I don't think regionalism is just a slogan. I think regionalism is just a survival strategy, and it's a way that you win. I spend a lot of time talking to different reporters and different industry observers. Rex Nelson says that Arkansas is really at a crossroads, not only in northeast Arkansas, but across the whole state. And he's told me several times that he thinks that the opportunities that are up here in northeast Arkansas are probably bigger than he's seen any other place, if we do it right. And I think that one of the ways of making sure we do it right is enacting regionalism. But what does that actually mean? That's what we're going to try to jump into a little bit today. But if you do think about the places in the United States and the places in Arkansas that are doing well, they do have a very regional focus. The places that fail to develop that, they don't fail to succeed, or they fail to succeed. And so really I'm going to say right off the bat and challenge and say, if we want to be something that we're looking at, it's on us. If you look at this room right here, we have, even 2 weeks ago, we had over 13 different industries here. We had over 10 different universities and institutions of higher education, and we had dozens of cities and economic development centers. This is a group that is a start of what a regional group can become. And so with that little bit of an introduction, I'm going to start off by just asking Graham some questions. And then we'll pass back and forth here. So, Graham, and by the way, Graham's had more experience in any of this than I. He's forgotten more about this than I've ever learned, so he's the expert here. Graham, tell me a little bit more about when regions genuinely work together. What are some of the visible signs, and what are leaders doing differently from just everyday business?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me, and thanks for putting this together. And I think one of the first signs is what you have here. I mean, look at this crowd, 600 folks, different cities, different organizations. Regionalism is not a slogan, and it's not a mandate. It's a collective effort, everybody coming on board, to do things together to help themselves and to help the greater good. Think of a region as a large company or as a mid-sized company. You're taking small companies coming together to create a bigger organization. So you start to see efficiencies, you start to see collaboration and cooperation, but you don't lose your identity, right? I mean, I think that's one of the critical pieces. And one of the beautiful things about Northeast Arkansas in general, is that on top of every hill or in every holler is a different culture, a different community, and really that's what the workforce wants. You've got 4 different generations in workforce right now. They all want something different at a different time in their lives. So the unique ethos of each community coming together to work as one region, right. Really, really valuable. And it takes practice to do that. It takes practice and it takes trust. And, I think we all, look, somebody signs our paycheck, right? So we all have loyalty to an organization or a city, an organization, a school. So we got to get out of our comfort zones. We have to get proximate to people and start to build that trust. Doesn't happen overnight. But it looks like convenings like this. It looks like actions and activities that build the muscles of communication and collaboration so that people are all rowing in the same direction.
Mm-hmm. That's great. What do you think is the role of a research university in that type of a process? Is it something that we would play a very strong role in, and what could we do to do better?
Well, I think I think you play the role of the great convener, which is massive, right? Like, you're not the middle man, but you're the nucleus. You're the center of this, where everybody you can come together, and you root it in a couple of things. The reasoning is it's not a selfish one. It's for the future of Northeast Arkansas, the future of Arkansas. It's for our kids, right? So you're bringing folks together to talk about how that we can be the best Northeast Arkansas we can be for the future of the region. You root that in data. You root that in education. You root that in workforce. At the end of the day, you're rooting it in putting food in people's mouths and paying rent, and that's something we can all get behind.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to hear what you think about it, but I look at the institutions of higher education that are in here, and when we're partnering together, we're accomplishing a whole lot more, and we're partnering with several that are here, and we'd like to partner with more. But I look at universities as not only providing, we heard Mickey talking about back-end research and development that we have, but the students that are here that need the experience before they can get the job, that old conundrum of, do I need the experience to get a job? I need a job to get experience. And they're here, and they're here to help solve problems, but then they're also here to provide workforce pipelines. We want to make sure that we're listening to industry to say, are we providing students to have the skills that you want? Are they missing something? If they're missing something, we want to make sure we try to add it. We realize that, the pace of change is happening now faster than ever, and so we know our curriculum is going to continue to evolve. We're thinking about offering courses that universities have never offered before, but that's going to be something that we'll need to continue to do, and we want to be listening to you to make sure we're doing that. And so we'd like you to be thinking about, what is it that our students need? What is it that we need to double down on? And then, are there issues and problems that we can help you solve? Because we have experts here, and we have students who really want to do projects and get experience before they leave.
Yeah, so talk a little bit more about that. How do to understand what the workforce needs in this area, you've got to have workforce play a role. Is that, and you have to have a pipeline of communication, right? Feedback loop, if you will. Do you see events like this, a regional convening, as a way to build proximity and understanding with those employers?
I would love to have your advice on this, but I think that this is our start. I think that this is an example of where you see lots of industries, you see lots of government officials and higher education folks, you see K through 12, you see government, and you see them all working together. It's the start, right? But I think that if we would start having some regular cadences about, like, let's meet and let's find out, where every little city is not going to have the same desire as another one, right? And you mentioned keeping identity, and I think that's super important. But even when you look past identity of one county or city, there are certain things that Northeast Arkansas, everybody would agree this would be great. And when I look at those kinds of things, if we can find those and start advocating for those and working for those together, it just seems like we're much stronger. If you've got 3 or 4 different cities that are competing against each other for certain things, it's easier to dismiss, it's easier to ignore at the federal level, at the state level. But if you have a whole region saying, we want these 2 or 3 different things, that's much more difficult to ignore.
Much more difficult to ignore. I mean, if I call and tell somebody that my power's out on my street, it's going to take a minute. If we all call, it's going to be it's a whole different deal. Yeah, so getting that bigger voice makes a huge difference. But I think one of the key things, and one of the real valuable things that A-State can do, is remind CEOs and other business leaders or mayors or look, I'm a Chamber of Commerce guy. Probably the most joyful moments I've had in my career are serving at the intersection of community and economy. Remind those individuals that, hey, not everybody knows your organization or your city backwards and forwards, up and down the way that you do, right? And
We're so involved every day to day, we assume everybody does know, but they don't know.
yeah, and so if you're going to build champions, you got to educate folks. You got to ask questions and make sure that they know you give a darn about their city, their community, their organization. And again, I can't say this enough. That comes back to regular meetings, and this can start in and then go bigger. You know, when I was in Little Rock, you had the Metro Little Rock Alliance, and they brought together multiple counties to share one message, one voice, to be that one central resource, the way that that you can be at Arkansas State, but then make sure that the fit was right within each community. It was smaller. I live in Bentonville now, Little Rock born and raised, but do love my new hometown as well. Bentonville is a little different. We would meet every week, leaders of the city. And this was not the big top-down force that said, you've got to do this. This was us recognizing, certainly from a chamber standpoint, and I'm not going to out-economic develop the Northwest Arkansas Council. I'm not going to out-event Crystal Bridges, right? So I better figure out what my lane is. So we would get together every week and share information. The superintendent of the Bentonville School District, Debbie Jones, the MVP of the Bentonville schools, was there every day. Crystal Bridges, every week. Crystal Bridges, the Science Center in the Amazium, the mayor, the county judge. You want to visit with somebody who already knows regionalism? Right. Go visit with your county judge. Is it Judge Day?
He's here.
Yeah, man.
He's right over there.
Look.
We just signed you up, Judge.
Yeah. You want to talk about coalition building and listening exercises. You don't think of it as a listening tour. You think of it as going to the store or to church, because you don't need to build a feedback loop. He's getting it, right?
Absolutely right. Absolutely right.
So yeah, build that cadence and create those muscles.
So, one of the things that I want to say to everyone here, that there are 130 different university regions and towns, 130 in the United States. We have a huge advantage here of being one of those 130. And the question is, will we take that opportunity, or will we watch it go by? If we watch it go by, it's really on us. So let's don't do that. Let's make a commitment to make it happen. I would like to ask you, Graham, how do you get an area to start thinking about, I don't live in Paragould, or I don't live in Manila, or I don't live in Jonesboro, I live in Northeast Arkansas. How do you do that?
Well, I can tell you that your news organization is already doing that, because I turned on the TV this morning and it told me that it was going to take 30 minutes to get from Paragould to Jonesboro. I don't think they do that in Little Rock. I don't remember that when I lived there, and no one's telling me how long it's going to get to work in Northwest Arkansas. I think you have to realize that, a rising tide lifts all boats, right? But also, you're already going back and forth. You already have doctor's appointments. Maybe you're getting your hair cut. Maybe your son or daughter has travel ball in one of these other communities. You already live regionally. You've got to take advantage of the opportunity, or maximize the opportunity, would be the better way to put that. Come together and look, where's all the growth in the country right now? It's in the Sun Belt, right? The next superpower of a region is up for grabs. You certainly see that the urban centers that have been so attractive have shifted. They're a little bit They're certainly cost prohibitive. So what's next, right? We've seen it change over the last 15 years. At the center of all these places, whether it's Austin, whether it's Silicon Valley, you see a university as the center. The same is true in Utah, Silicon Slopes. The same is true in the Research Triangle of North Carolina. You have to have a strong university presence. What do you think? What role do the universities play there?
So I think that I think there's several. I mean, I think that when the universities win, industries win. When industries win, then universities win, particularly if we're strategic about where we're going to go and what we're going to do, where we're going to focus on, because we have the expertise and we have the students who want to do the work and solve problems, and we also have the students who want to have the skills to succeed. No one wants to go to school and get a degree and then say, oh, well, it didn't meet the needs of High Bar or anybody else. They want to make sure that when they get there, they're going to hit the ground running. They want to get a job with Delta Dirt, and they want to know they've got the skills and they've got the professional skills and they've got the learning to be able to succeed there. And so we really want to provide not just workforce pipeline, but then also back-end research and development for everybody. So when we win, you win.
Well, I think that's the way you shift the mindset. When we win, you win. You know, when everybody wins, I win. Because at the end of the day, I've got to put food on my table, right? You know, I've really been fortunate to see Arkansas community development and economic development through the lens of my children, right? I've got a 13-year-old today. Big shout out to Cecilia Cobb, turned 13 today. She made it. I hope I'm still cool when I get home. Probably not. Might not have been when I left. I'm not sure. And so a 13-year-old and a 15.
Wait till she's about 22, then you're a genius.
I'll be cool again at the end of the month when her allowance runs out or whatever. So a 13-year-old and a 15-year-old, and I've seen them now in two different regions in Arkansas, and I've seen their taste shift. I've seen the things I worry about shift. And I think that gives me a unique perspective. Well, you look up and they're always asking for something, right? So it's like, let's go roller skating. Well, okay, we have a skating rink here. Well, now it's like pickleball, right? So let's go. Why don't we have a chicken and pickle? Why don't we have a chicken and pickle? What is a chicken and pickle?
I don't know.
Well,
I've heard of it, but I don't
exactly
know.
what it sounds like. It's pickleball and chicken wings or something, right? Well, the reason is because they only go to certain sized markets. I think that's important to think about too. How do we win when we think and we speak regionally? You talked about, you go to the front of the line of infrastructure projects, right? You get up in the queue on a funding request. The same is true, and there's site selectors and economic development professionals out there right now. They know that once you reach that 50,000 population threshold, you're in line for different projects. Once you reach the 100,000 threshold, you're in line, you get the chicken and pickle. And I know that was a big talking point it's a big talking point in Northwest Arkansas because we saw it in Tulsa, where once you break into that metro area and you're in the top 100 metro areas population-wise, it's a whole different discussion.
Yeah, right. And when you talk about metro areas, if you've got a company that's thinking about moving, if I can imagine them coming to Northeast Arkansas and then going to Blytheville, going to Manila, going to Jonesboro, going to Paragould, going to around these areas, and then saying, hey, these places are cooperating, they're working together, they're not competing against each other, that's going to make it much more attractive for them to want to come here, I assume.
You would assume, but they're never going to come here if they don't know. Right. And you're not going to be on their radar unless you're able to tout one of those numbers, you know? Yeah, look, I mean, look across the region from a workforce standpoint. I think we'd all agree that the work ethic is there, right? I mean, You've got industry, you're steeped in manufacturing, you're steeped in agriculture, healthcare. These are steel, like 12-hour shifts, right? The work ethic's there, and I'm telling you, that's what a lot of employers are going to say they don't have, is that stamina. Kids these days, the stamina to work an 8-hour day, it's true. Places like Arkansas, certainly Northeast Arkansas, they don't suffer from that, but you're not going to be on their radar. When an economic development and community development is sales, it's a transfer of belief. And I was raised in sales to believe that you owed it to somebody if you thought you could help them to continue to talk to them, to continue to try to solve their problems. Well, I would say that Northeast Arkansas owes it to the future companies that aren't here, but also to the future workforce or kids that are here right now to be evangelical about talking about the strengths of this collective region. So you change that conversation.
Absolutely. So one of the things that the provost and I have been talking about quite a bit that I want to let everyone here know is that we've been listening a lot to the industries about the skills that the students need that they maybe used to have but they don't have now. We've been really trying to think about, like, how do we add that to the core? How do we add things that are very practical, like, greeting someone and shaking hands and looking them in the eye, and how do you dress professionally, and how do you network, and how do you do those types of things that universities never really taught before, but increasingly we need to. But then also, as a follow-up, having internships with you or at campus, so that there are projects that they can actually say, look what I did. And when they come out for interviews, they can say, look, I've got this experience. And so one of the ways that you can help us is to let us know what are the skills that you're seeing students don't have. And I'm not talking necessarily about calculus or chemistry or mechanical engineering, but I'm talking about the professional skills too. We're really going to try to put that into the core for every student to be taking, and then getting them interns on campus or with you. So if you can partner with us on that, that's something we'll be rolling out next year.
I'd like to talk a little bit about talent retention. Talent attraction is such a huge thing, but I feel like retention gets a little bit overlooked. It doesn't get overlooked in business, but sometimes it does get overlooked in economic or community development. And I think when you're building a region like Northeast Arkansas that talent retention is a huge deal. Not everybody loves all the things people tout, right? And I really, I speak from experience, a lived experience here as well in Northwest Arkansas. I love riding a mountain bike. And, well, I love riding a bike. I don't like crashing it, so I don't mountain bike as much. But in art, I'm into art, but man, not everybody is. My wife is certainly not, and my children aren't into riding bikes and going to art museum all the time. They want a youth group. They want a faith community. They want scouting. Like, if you look in Northeast Arkansas, making sure that if I'm in Paragould, and I think there's a great holiday, like a holiday open house, holiday,
right,
jolly shop or whatever you would call it. Like, that's a big deal. Making sure that's on the radar of the people at Arkansas State University, because that might be what their jam is. They might like that more than a Red Wolf tailgate, or they might be able to go to both.
Right.
Making sure you share those calendars and you tout the quality of life for everybody. Because having a city or a region or a community that just churns through folks and has attrition, not retention, that's pretty costly.
I'm getting signals from Queen Jay that we're close to time. So if I could say, from your mind and your experience, if there's something that we could ask this group to say, hey, within the next quarter, what should we focus on as a real action? It's not just conversation about regionalism, but what is something we could do that's a real action?
I'll give one to you.
Okay.
That is convene this group. Be the convener. you know, it is hard if you run a city to show that you are being a good steward of your taxpayer dollars when you say, I'm going to share stuff with the town next door. You know, that's tough. You don't have to worry about that. Be the convener. And do it with regularity, right? Build that cadence. I'd say for this group, start to identify your message. You know, what is Northeast Arkansas's brand, for a lack of better terms? And then what's a shared goal that you can all work on together to really maximize this opportunity? You know, opportunities are just that, right? I mean, it's not written in stone how things are going to be. Northeast Arkansas, Central Arkansas, Northwest is carrying the water. Those three regions carry the water for the state right now, but that's not predetermined and it's not guaranteed. So making sure you find a project to work on together to take advantage of this opportunity.
Well, I'll just end on just saying that there are projects that we are working on with ANC and ASU Newport that are here. There are projects that we're working on with other universities too, but they have been, to our chagrin, focused mostly on Jonesboro, and I don't want that to be the case. So if there are partnerships that we can develop across this region, we are open, we are wanting to hear what it is. We are ready to act as that convener. We're not in competition with anybody, and like I said before, when we win, you win. When you win, we do. So I need to hear from it. We will definitely follow up with that and start thinking that way. And I'll just leave this with a challenge. There are so many opportunities if we do work together as a region to capitalize on big opportunities and land big projects. And if we just continue to work as different cities, that it'd just be slow if it happens at all. So the challenge really is on us. What are we going to do? And I'll just leave it with that challenge. And I want to thank you all very much for being here today, and thank you, Graham, for being here as well. Join me in giving Graham a big round of applause.